Hello, guys. Welcome in. We are on the heels of CitizenCon, just days away. And about 5 hours ago, InsiderGaming.com just came out with this bombshell article talking about a lot of the things that I've been trying to talk about with CIG over the past year, and certain things that people have been saying about Cloud Imperium Games and Chris Roberts for more than a year, for a very long time. So I wanted to get in and talk about this article. This is going to be a very long video. And can we take this article with a grain of salt? Maybe. But nonetheless, it's news. It's very interesting news. And I don't think this news could potentially do anything to derail the hype that Star Citizen currently has with the player base. But I do think it's worth us taking a look at, because you guys all know here on my channel, I'm not no shill. If I see something that's interesting, or I see something that's going wrong with CIG, I will say something about it. And if they do something right, I'll give them credit for it. But nonetheless, I want to take a look at this article. So let's get right into it. The article is 12 years and 700 million later. What's going on with Star Citizen's development? Star Citizen turbulent 12-year development isn't a secret. A quick search on YouTube or Google will reveal a plethora of issues that the project has suffered since its inception in 2012, from broken promises to cut features. Backers have learned to either abandon ship or strap themselves in for the ride with no final destination in sight. Frustrations are at an all-time high, which is true, and for many, those are working on the game, it's a mutual feeling. Okay, so things are not all happy in paradise, I see. On October 1st, Cloud Imperium Games developers' inboxes were hit with a new mandate from the global head of production, Aaron Roberts. Those working on CitizenCon deliverables must work every day, including weekends, until October 19th. The mandate forced employees to work 19 straight days for a minimum of 8 hours per day up until CitizenCon, which in time off in lieu being offered for the Saturday and Sunday hours work, as well as breakfast and lunch being offered. It's a mandate that was quickly altered after staff raised questions about the legalities surrounding it. So CIG instead opted to give employees Sunday off until they meet the minimum threshold of 56 hours worked from Monday to Saturday, a change that would still be illegal in the UK law if CIG employees' contracts didn't contain an opt-out agreement of the first 48-hour weekly limit. So I don't know much about the UK's labor laws. So anybody who's familiar with that, the UK's labor laws, like, comment down in the comments and let me know more about that, because that's something I don't really understand, and I don't want to speak on that because I'm not from the UK. In addition to the sudden change, Insider Gaming also had asked for comment in our original report on the mandate. So they did make a report about this, which I did not make a video about, because I was just like, well, that's just par for the course. That's the kind of shit that you can just expect from CIG, to try to cram everything at the last moment and then try to put it out. And we see that currently with the 3.24.2 patch that's in the PTU currently, it's not in really good shape. Even the NPCs are having a lot of desync. And I thought master modes was supposed to, get rid of a lot of that desync, but it's seemingly getting worse because the patch is being rushed. It looks like the employees are overworked and they're stressed out. So mistakes are being made, which seemingly prompted an email sent by Aaron Roberts to staff. Also give employees October 21st off as a free company holiday. Perhaps it was a weird coincidence, but it's a gesture that some employees likely say wouldn't have happened if the news of the mandate wasn't going to be made public. Most staff saw it as a band-aid over a bullet wound, saying the company needs a complete overhaul to survive. Some workers think that CIG has already passed the point of no return, with its future heading to an unavoidable crash course that is due to mismanagement and overspending. Over the past couple of weeks, I've spoken to over a dozen past and current employees on CIG's current situation. which gives a brief insight to the company's internal workings and possible future. Now, if they're speaking to current employees, I don't know if they have NDAs which disallow them from speaking to the media, but I guess not, because when it's good, you'll see them posting on Twitter and going to live streams and interacting with the player base. So I just wanted to throw that caveat in there, but let's continue. Bleak financials and spending. As of 2022, according to its financials, the company has spent over $637 million in development, with 2020 through 2022 averaging over $600 million a year. Assuming that the company intends to spend $100+ million a year, it doesn't take a mathematician to realize that the $700 million raised so far, it's on the verge of or has likely run out. It's an assumption felt both by current and former employees at the company, who say that they have been experiencing the effects of apparent dwindling funds over the past 12 months. So here we have a income thing in which they've shown up through 2022 of their financials. I think the blue here, we have sales and pledges, subscriptions, and other incentives and partnerships. So most of this, we already know, is being funded by the player base. Earlier this year, CIG quietly laid off an estimated 100 to 150 staff members at its Austin and LA offices. The company had hopes the move would go under the radar because of affected employees were told to sign non-disclosure agreements, which prevented them from announcing their departures on social media. Former employees said that those who refused to sign were told they would not get any form of severance. I don't know if that's legal. If you can force someone to sign an NDA so they don't post that because I don't know if that's actually legal or not. So that's kind of fishy. Undoubtedly, this information about the layoffs hit the internet because of those who refuse to sign NDAs or decide to speak to the press. The information the layoffs eventually forced CIG's hand, and the company issued a statement revealing that the small number of positions were eliminated, and it had decided to co-locate as much of development as possible. Current staff members also felt the financial burden, with wage increases being frozen and the prospect of career progression seemingly being halted. As the cost of living continues to rise, some employees tell me that they are now struggling to make ends meet, leading to some to contemplate leaving the company and questioning their future in the industry entirely. But at least we have barista serving us coffee here, one employee joked, referencing the over-the-top coffee bar that takes up a large portion of the 9th floor at its new Manchester building. Now, I don't know if this is real, but it looks like an imitation of Orison or Horizon, however the hell they want to say it. According to sources who believe the backers' money could be spent much more effectively, the coffee bar is just one example of CIG's unnecessary spending habits. Spending tens of thousands of pounds on custom furniture and oversized props isn't unusual, sources say, with management justifying its spending habits to push the boundaries of game development. Its Manchester office, which is still under construction on one floor, consists of custom wall paneling, doors, and even desks to make employees feel like they are living in the Star Citizen universe. One employee described the office almost like a space version of Willy Wonka's factory that caters to taste over functionality. And this line right here is very true, because we can see that in the current game design. The new MFDs in the game, like, they look great. Like, I'm not going to deny that. Like, they're visually, aesthetically pleasing to look at, but they don't serve any really good functions because they suck. They're supposed to be multifunction displays, and they suck at being multifunction displays. They're just very pretty screens to look at that have 1980s CRT monitor glitches all over them. It's really retarded, especially to be 900 years in the future. Development issues. Pushing the boundaries of game development is often a phrase used by management, said sources, who use it repeatedly to explain CIG's unorthodox game development processes. This includes rationalizing almost all of its processing of the development pipeline, including creative to its teaching process on how to use CIG's Star Engine, which is a heavily modified version of CryEngine that we know is very old. that has been the cause of years of delays, pushbacks. Staff describes the engine as a Frankenstein mismatch of parts that is difficult to work with, and at the best of times, never mind when features are added, changed, or removed daily. Both current and former staff say that one of the fundamental issues at the creative process, which will see the head honcho of CIG, Chris Roberts, make game defining changes daily that can cause weeks of issues. Roberts is relatively known in and out of the Star Citizen community for being a perfectionist at the best of times. Still, development feels that his constant changes in vision and scope have become one of the most significant burdens to Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and CIG as a development studio. Now, my good friend Scar Citizen has made videos about this in the past, and um, Chris Roberts' other projects that he's done that he's been removed from. I believe Freelancer may have been a project that he was removed from because it was taking too long, and the studio that he was working with eventually just got not set up, but they got fed up and they booted him out of the project and they just finished it and released it. Staff say that this isn't just one prominent game feature either, but down to the minutest of details. They say that decisions that should take a matter of seconds creatively can sometimes take hours or even days due to his micromanagement. I've genuinely been at I've genuinely been sat in meetings that got derailed for 30 minutes so that placement of objects players are likely never to interact with could be discussed in detail, said one former employee. There are no actual focus on getting the game done, they continued. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't think that they're trying to get this game done. What I think I think where they're at now is like, we just need to make as much money as possible. And then when we finally run out of money and we can just say, hey, we don't have any money left. Sorry, we're going to sell the game to somebody else. They'll finish it. And then it'll be a huge mess because then people are going to want to sue, and rightfully so. So it's not looking good. This article is not looking good for if anything in this article is true, even 10%, it's not looking good. Sometimes the most basic feature can be reviewed by him, Roberts, for half a dozen times for it to then be scrapped on the seventh review, said another employee. The constant change in scope are made worse by inappropriate deadlines. Many of the employees said, which will see months of work of expected in weeks or even in days, which still ultimately runs the risk of being scrapped. It's crazy. Cult-like culture. The constant changes in creative micromanagement and poorly optimized engine and lack of standard development process have led to many experienced developers to leave CIG in recent years, with some of those I spoke to preferring a more traditional form of game development. CIG's change in experienced staff has undoubtedly had a knock-on effect on its culture, with sources saying that the studio now has one of the strongest cult-like mentalities in the entire industry. It's not surprising. That's not surprising. And that cult-like culture and mentality trickles down because anytime I point out anything that CIG does wrong, I get nothing but CIG white knight shills and stands in my comments just trying to argue with me. Like, I just had one idiot the other day. I said something about, hey, they brought service beacons back in this new global event, but this is not a new mission. This part of it's not new. It's old. We remember it from the 3.22 cycle and before. It was one of my favorite PvE missions, and they just brought it back. But they brought it back. It has the same exact bugs that the other mission had, where you would go there and the NPCs would be unresponsive and they would have really bad desync. So they didn't even fix it and make it better. And my entire argument about it was, like, it's okay to try new things that work, but if you have something that works, you should fix it, and not fix it, but you should build upon it, but not get rid of it entirely, only to bring it back much later on. We see the same issue with companies like EA and Madden. They'll take a feature out of Madden for like 5 or 6 years, then they'll bring it back as some type of all new feature. When we're like, no, like we've been playing Madden since we were children. We remember all the features in Madden. And CIG is doing the exact same thing. They are making the literal exact same mistakes. And that is my point. And the other point is, if you're going to make an all new mission, make an all new mission. Don't bring us something back that we had before. Make an all new mission. But the problem with these dynamic events and these global events is they all involve cargo and they all involve PvE/PvP combat. They haven't drastically changed at all, right? And it's going to be very difficult for them to make new ones in the future, because this global event is not inherently different from the last dynamic event they just had, which was the blockade runner, where you go into space, you fight some guys, you take cargo, and you deliver it. That is essentially the mission, and that is essentially every global event they come up with. It's the same thing. They just repackage it into something else. It is the result of CIG's own doing, which will see experienced staff replaced by younger and cheaper developers who'll find it difficult to learn from more experienced staff because there aren't any. Shocker. One source went on to say that they are aware of some of the people who were hired simply because they were fans of the game. Shocker. It has created an unhealthy workplace. You can't push back on anything except one current developer. Shocking. And this probably has to do with master modes. I guarantee you this has to do with master modes. They are repeating the mistakes that other companies made 20 years ago, EA, which contributes to the shortcomings of their ambitious features, said a former developer. Man, I wish they would put names on this. Most experienced staff will leave for one reason or another within a year, which has created a studio with a large portion of the staff of its staff will have Star Citizen as a first shipped game. Not surprising. And my other good friend Kenneth also said this, that their developers are so bad that Star Citizen is going to be their first shipped game. And I haven't even sent him this article yet. I'm going to actually send him this article after I make this video and let him read it. And then he's going to be like, dude, like I just said this. I literally have been telling you this the entire time. The future. It remains to be seen how CIG will continue developing games as its funds seemingly dwindle, but the studio is actively seeking additional funding and ideas to prolong development. Earlier this year, Microsoft was given a brief presentation for Squadron 42's CIG spin-off campaign of Star Citizen that consists of 20 different chapters, levels of various lengths. It's understood that the plan for Squadron 42 is to get out the door as soon as possible, with the directors of the company hoping the influx in cash will sustain Star Citizen's development and help push out Squadron 42 as a multi-game series, which will see the game story span over 7 different episodes. As far as Squadron 42 will launch, I wouldn't want to guess, but it's understood the game has only just made its feature complete stage, despite the claims last year. Oh, that's a very interesting line here. So they're saying that we were told last year that Squadron 42 was feature complete, but what they're claiming here is that it may not be true. Now, he's just saying this in the article. This is not coming from, I didn't see anywhere in here where it said that someone inside the company said it, but I kind of believe him, because I've been saying this for such a long time, and anybody that's been watching my channel and been watching me stream for a long time I've been saying this. If Squadron 42 is in fact feature complete, why is Persistent Universe so bad? Because in my mind, if you're telling me that you took most of your people, most of your stuff off Squadron 42 and you put them into Persistent Universe, and they're supposed to be working on that and getting those features into the Persistent Universe, then at the very least, we should see higher quality patches with less bugs and a lot more stability. And I'm not necessarily talking about server meshing and all that stuff. I'm just talking about the shit that we currently have right now should be better. When you say something like that, you get hit with white knights and stands like, oh, you don't understand game development. But it's odd that an article that came out 5 hours ago is saying the exact same things that I've been saying all fucking year. I've been saying this shit literally all fucking year. And now there is an article to corroborate what I'm saying. So how many of you shills and white knights are going to be able to stand behind this project after seeing an article like this? And I'm not saying I want Star Citizen to fail, because I don't. I personally have given away ships to people because I want them to be able to enjoy the game. I want to be able to enjoy the game. I want to see this become the best space game ever. But it looks like the writing might be on the wall already for this company. Unless they don't get their shit together, unless Chris Roberts doesn't pull his head out of his fucking ass, then we're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be the same thing. And this company it's going to be another failed project by Chris Roberts. And if this does go down like this, he should be banned from the industry. If CIG fails to deliver Squadron 42, if they fail to deliver Star Citizen, Chris Roberts should never be allowed to make a video game ever again in his life. Like, no one should ever give him money again. This is his last chance. And that's why I said, like, this CitizenCon is make or break for CIG. This is why they're trying to do illegal shit in the UK, allegedly, to get these things out the door. They're rushing at the last minute to get these things out the door. Now, did they have issues with their database? Yes. They were still a database that didn't fucking work. Did they have issues with NMQ? Yes. Has it gotten better with RMQ? Yes. But that doesn't excuse the past 4 to 5 years of development that has been shitty. It doesn't excuse it. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I understand there's contractual obligations when you're licensing technology from certain people. I get that. But it doesn't excuse the lack of direction and the mismanagement by Chris Roberts himself. Okay, that's exactly what I'm getting at here. Other ideas to fund Star Citizen include more ships at higher prices. Will not surprise those familiar with the game's development. However, one potential oddball is the third game development themed around a medieval fantasy. Sources said the details of the project are slim. Could that be the Soul Singer? Could that be Soul Singer? However, one potential oddball is a third game in development themed around a medieval fantasy. Sources said the details of the project are slim, but it means for CIG to release more than just one style of game, they said. Nevertheless, whether or not the backers of Star Citizen want their money to fund a fantasy game is a question for another time, as is how long will the game take to develop. We all know, like a couple of months ago, right, there was this, see if I can pull it up, because now I gotta go into investigator mode. So this was a trademark that was filed by Cloud Imperium Games in June, right? Now, if this article, if what they're saying down here is correct, that would mean that this is not something that's going to be either in Squadron or in the persistent universe, because people were saying that, okay, well, maybe what this could potentially be is some type of arcade game that you play in one of the arcades, because you know that the Idris, not the Idris, but the Javelin has arcades, and they have like these arcade machines littered throughout the universe in the game. But if this is true, right? If this is true, then this is a third game. And if they, bro, I'm telling you right now, if they announce Soul Singer at CitizenCon, bro, be in my live stream for the reaction. I'm going to be watching CitizenCon. This is probably the last CitizenCon that I'm going to watch. Live, anyway. This is going to be the last CitizenCon that I watch. So, be there. We're going to have the lines open, like I said. And we're going to be taking calls and, you know, taking the temperature. But if this is true, that means that they are really in trouble. And personally, if they're trying to develop a third game, it's curtain calls. I'm telling you, it's going to be a bloodbath. Cloud Imperium is set to host its annual CitizenCon October 29th through 20th, with fans playing to see a demo of CitizenCon Chapter 1, which is internally set to get our community on board with the fact that they are getting very close to Squadron release. Of course, fans should expect to see a lot more of Star Citizen, but as the past 12 years have shown us, nothing is set in stone. Wow. What an article, guys. What an article. My overall thoughts on this is they've given a clear insight to the development of CIG, and we see some of this attitude in certain aspects or in certain parts of the player base where you can't criticize CIG without somebody coming into your comments or your post from Spectrum being removed or deleted. So what does this tell us overall about Cloud Imperium Games? It tells us that there is something fundamentally wrong at that company. And usually when you have something going wrong at your company, it's usually never a few employees. It usually starts at the top. And I'm talking to you, Chris Roberts. If you want this game to be successful, if you want Star Citizen to be the best game ever, if you want your Squadron 42, your own version of Star Wars, to be successful, you need to pull your head out of your ass, sir, and look around. Because if you think you selling chips at a higher price in an economy like this is going to save your company, I got news for you. It's not. If you think that releasing Squadron 42, making a deal with Microsoft is going to save your game, you better think again, because Microsoft is not doing well in the gaming industry right now. Okay, they are not doing good, and Sony's not doing much better. The gaming industry is in a state of, in my opinion, chaos with a few good gems out there. There are a few good gems out there, but overall, the state of gaming right now is not good. It's not good. And if we are going to honestly sit here and say that we want Star Citizen to be the best game ever, it's going to have to come from the top. And personally, I don't see that happening. As always, let's have a discussion about it in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.